So we're back again, week 2. Welcome to another coaching leadership session with Coach K. That's me. And last week we talked about ambition, but we also kind of started things off with an overview of what's going on. So if you're just joining, this is a year-long leadership coaching sessions. There will be 50 lessons total, like some on leadership, as last week was ambition. This week we'll be talking about restraint. So if you can see access to the file, that's on the Coach K page, you can download it. I'll also post that here in the links on the video so you can access it. I've stepped up, learned little lessons from last week to this week, so I've got someone from the Coach K team will be staffing the comments section and respond to you, and then I'll get to your comments after the call. I just found that's best for me to be able to kind of focus on this, and share the best that I have with you during the calls, but I definitely want to follow up with you and kind of hear what's been going on. I know one person was on the call from week 1, Chuck in particular, I'll call him up by name, had some really interesting progress and feedback and things and dove in, so really happy to see. For me, that's what this is about. This is what I love seeing this. So in full disclosure, none of these lessons will cost you anything. These will all be free. This is one full year leadership coaching with me, with lessons with you, building community that's completely free of charge, because I love that aspect. I love seeing, I've done this process before. I've actually done this process and oversaw this process with thousands of people. And it is amazing. I love seeing what happens as people wrestle with a concept and put it in their own context and go forward with it. So that's the catch you guys up to speed. That's what's going on. So this week we're talking about restraint. Once again, this paper's up there. You can download the link and go over it. So what I would love for you guys to do as we go through it here in a few minutes is to read along with me, look at it. If you want to read it on your own, that's fine. You can do that. I'm also going to be introducing a 5-minute kind of leadership clip at the end of the week, generally on Friday. So if you're not able to make all 30 minutes of this call, I understand time is short. I'll do a quick 5-minute recap, probably on Friday. So a 5-minute Friday recap of whatever the lesson is. You can gravitate towards that and kind of be moving forward. So once again, in full disclosure, these are all free. I do offer services that are paid, additional leadership coaching and temperament, and we can talk about that another time. This is about you guys. This is about stepping up as a leader and everything. So always like to start off talking about, now that we're into it, last week we didn't have really anything to share. This week, I challenge you guys to put ambition into practice. So the question for you is to think back to, did I do it or not? And everyone's, this is what I love, is that it gets really challenging when you put yourself out on the line and say, yeah, I'm committing myself to this type of action, and then you come back week 2, week 3, week 4, 5, all the way through this whole year and say, did I actually do what I said I was going to do? I set a goal, right, to work on with a client that I'm working on, and still in process, so I can't give myself 100% on that goal. There's a lot of stuff that was going on this week from my work. I teach at a university. I've got different clients and everything, so a lot going on. Those are all excuses, right? If you set a goal and you don't achieve it, you just gotta be honest with yourself. I didn't hit it, so I would say I'm about halfway to where I want to be. And we got a trip coming up where I'm going to be visiting a client on site, so I'll be working on that. So that's where it goes. So think about for yourself. If you watch week 1 video and you set a goal for ambition, did you do it or not? If not, what do you want to go back and finish that off? Is there any element of what you started you want to carry on for the rest of the year? That's a key thing. There's going to be a lot of content we're going to cover, and not all of it you'll carry forward. And some of that has to do with your temperament. Not all these character traits are things that you need to really work on a whole lot more, and there's some that you do need to step into, but they may always be a weakness, and that's part of the temperament aspect, which I can do that. So good and bad reports, right? That's always the second part. What happened really well? What's been really stressful for you? You can kind of share those things in the comments. Like I said in the previous video, I believe in miracles. I believe in prayer. I've seen cool stuff happen when we pray and ask God to step into those types of things. So you don't have to believe that. It doesn't matter. I do. So if there's something that's stressing you out, feel free you can message me privately if you don't want to post it. If you want to post it in the page right here in the video links, that'd be awesome as well. So everyone can kind of see what's happening. We can kind of build this momentum, kind of this wave of community as we work through these things. So that's the goal. So for me, stressors. Let's see. Stress is just a lot of good stuff going on. So I do feel really energized. Kind of taking the ambition lesson. I kind of stepped out with some ambition prior to the year starting and working towards this stuff. So I feel great because there's a lot going on. But that also creates stress. But it's good. That type of stress and tension is good. So I guess that's my good thing that's going on. Is I got some good work and some good projects and a business trip coming up. And the stress is I've got a lot of projects and things going on, so it is stressful. So think about it for you. What's been really good this past week, and what's on your mind right now. What's stressing you out? You ready to go? All right. So Restraint. I've got the sheet pulled up. You can pull it up and pull the link. And as always, there's kind of a saying at the top, and then there's several paragraphs we'll read through. So I'll read through those paragraphs with you. I'll give you my thoughts. I would love you to read along. Either pull this up on your screen so you can look at it, jot down notes, print it off. I know other people like to print this off and just, that's what it's for. It's a tool for you to use. And another thing is feel free to use these yourself, at your school or work or wherever you're at, whatever group you're a part of. This is completely open for you to be using outside of these videos. I'm not claiming sole ownership of this content anyways. Actually, a lot of this material that's been edited and everything, but I actually got from another organization that was open source, same thing. So freely receive, freely pass it on. There's some lessons I'm really excited about. So this is week 2. We'll do 2 more lessons like this, and then week 5 is we'll be spending more time looking at success principles. So these are all things that will make you more successful, but there's certain aspects of relational thinking that that lesson in particular, week 5, is about redefining success. And I'm really excited for that. So please stay with me to get to that point. Otherwise, let's go. Here we go. So restraint, a quick response can ruin everything. Yes, we see this. I see this all the time. I think we live in a society. We live in a time period now where instant gratification it's taken on a whole new meaning. It's taken on a whole new level of what it means to be able to respond to something quickly. I mean, just the fact we're doing this, right? We're streaming a video live from my home office to you, and then you can come back and watch it again, and you see things go. If you're on social media, obviously you're on Facebook if you're watching this, or coming through the coachk.me site and watching them there later on, is that you can download the stuff, and there's very few filters between what's going on. So that's what we're going to talk about it. So there's big emphasis on the words that we speak in this lesson, but there's also, obviously goes above and beyond just words, but there's a big emphasis that. So here we go, first paragraph. A wound in the body can take months to heal, but wounds to our spirit can last a lifetime. Words have a power that can bury dreams, demolish self-esteem, and destroy potential. Many times we point out faults and bad habits of people, but we fail to recognize and express their talents and potential. This makes people lose hope in now and the future. Sticks and stones will break bones, words never hurt me. It's not true. It's not true. It's amazing. I had a fellow faculty member talking about, our students appear to be full-grown adults, but there's obviously many things about them. They're still developing. Their view of the world hasn't fully solidified yet. They're still in this process of I'm a child. I have responsibilities to my parents. Like they can't just do whatever they want completely. They theoretically can legally as adults, but there's that connection to things. And how many people have you interacted with over life who are still carrying burdens from the past of things people said to them or way they were treated, or from parents or anything? So obviously words are very, very powerful. And some of us are more responsive to the words than others. That's a temperament trait. Some of us, you don't put a whole lot of stock in people's opinions of you, and some of us do. And that ties back to temperament and everything. But nevertheless, long and the short, summarize it, words are very powerful. Next paragraph. Words can bring solutions or actually tie us to problems. I love that line. Words are hard to harness because they spring up out of us if we're impulsive and reactive. We think twice about striking someone, about hitting someone, right? But many times we don't think twice before we strike out in anger with cruel, insulting, or intimidating words, especially now online. There's this whole, you have to take on this whole different persona of, things that we say through social media versus we would never dare say them to someone's face to face. So that's a great kind of rule of thumb, which I've shared with other people. Like, if you wouldn't say this to someone in the line at the grocery store, if you wouldn't say this to someone on the street, don't say it, don't type it out. Even worse, I mean, what you're typing out, there's a history of that. That's going to be there. People can see it. Even if you delete it, someone can take a screenshot of it, and it's going to be there. That's going to go in record, attached to your character, attached to your name. So we know we can't just lash out and hit someone. So we control that, but we don't control what we're saying. And that's it. That first sentence. That's one I found really interesting. Words bring solutions, or they can tie you to the problem. So look at what we're saying, look at what we're proposing, look at what you're doing, and say, am I giving someone freedom to step away from a challenge if they need to? But sometimes people need to be tied to things. So once again, they're powerful either way. All right, so next paragraph. When we talk too much, we can embarrass ourselves, and people would judge us as loose talkers or gossips. And if we then try to justify ourselves or deny it, we just add to the problem. It just becomes this vicious circle that's never ending. Hurtful words that were so easily spoken can take years of mending to bring correction and healing. Things we say do come back to us. This concept, and this is a principle we'll talk about later, is the idea of when you're planting seeds, when you're sowing something, that's gonna grow, and our words are definitely one of those things. They're like investments. So what are you investing? How are you investing with your words? How are you investing? And once again, this is a strong emphasis on words and talk, but also think about your actions. What are your actions saying? Because obviously they speak so much louder than our words do. So if people look at and listen to what things you say, people watch the way that you behave, what harvest would you expect from that? What type of investment are you looking to come back and see? So it's and recognize that many times it's a very long-term return on investment from things that you said, things that you've said, things that you've done in the past. I mean, you can still. So there's receiving forgiveness from other people for things that you've said and done, and then there's forgiving yourself for things that you've said and you've done in the past. Some people can just completely, they have a temper that just explodes very quickly, right? But they don't remember what they just said, an hour later. They don't remember the feeling. The feeling just bubbles to the top really fast, and then it's gone. And then other people, they never show their emotions until they build this list. And other people just really don't. They don't show emotion at all because they don't care. Like, nothing really happens. And then other people that build this list, their mind kind of spirals. That's all temperament related. And just because you may respond fast and then get over it quickly, or you may not respond quickly at all, you don't show emotion, but you're kind of building this list. You've got the list of so-and-so said this, put that on the list. So-and-so said that, put that on the list. And you're kind of building this stockpile of things until it finally reaches this point where you can't take it anymore. And then you unload this whole massive list from like 12 years ago, right? That sticks with them. That's all temperament related. And not everyone views the world or sees the world or will respond that way like you do. So that's a huge takeaway for me from this whole thing, is recognizing the way you're wired is not the way other people are wired. And not everyone has a problem with restraint. Some people have they have a much more developed sense of self-control just naturally there. And other people don't. So if you struggle with self-control, this is certainly a lesson for you. And we can talk more offline another time, how to figure that out. Next paragraph, we don't have to communicate everything that comes to our mind. How many times have we gotten ourselves into trouble by talking too much, by gossiping and spreading rumors? It creates all kinds of fighting that separate us from our family members, or friends. So it's good to be friendly and sociable, but we must also discipline our speech when it comes to bragging, exaggerating, talking about others. Words can come so quickly. That's why it's very important to have self-control. And this is I've done this lesson in the past, obviously. And that has been an area for me where I have matured. There's an element, there's a part of my temperament that's very quick to say just what comes to mind to some degree, and there's another part that's more controlled. And I'm definitely prone to exaggerating and bragging. It can be used as a tool in the right context. In the classroom, I'll use an exaggerated example to get people's attention and then break it down why that is or isn't true. But I'm also, personally, one of the things that I certainly struggle with is when I'm energized, when I'm excited, when I'm working on something that I'm passionate about, it's very easy for me to step into an aspect of bragging and boasting. But other people aren't, right? Other people, they may be on the other end of the spectrum where they're always very critical of themselves. They're so critical to the point where they have something amazing to offer. You have something really incredible talent or gift that the world needs. People around you need that resource, that tool, that thing that you've learned, but you're so self-deprecating, you're so critical of yourselves, you don't share it, right? That's also equally bad. And I don't think you think about that. When you're so critical of yourself that you're not putting these things out there, that's just as it's not hurtful necessarily. The only person that really hurts is you, but it does keep this talent, this gifting that you've either worked for it or just been given, and you're not giving that to others. It's selfish. Chew on that for a minute. So different temperaments have different problems in these different areas. So their restraint may be that they're too restrained. They restrain themselves too much, whereas another person may be completely unrestrained, and because of their lack of restraint, they cause harm either way. So either way, we're always on the spectrum of there's this tension. We have to be able to walk that's right. So next paragraph, choose the words that we speak, the attitude that we have when delivering them. The principle of restraint means to hold back words. Learn to keep your mouth shut and take time to think before we speak, but it obviously extends to more than just words. It's impossible to retract words once they're spoken and actions once they've happened. But it is possible to restrain them in your mind, because that's where things start. I think we get so fixated, and we'll dive into this in success, the success principles, the 10 of them peppered throughout this whole leadership coaching session. Our beliefs shape what's important to us, our values, and then which leads to our actions, the things that we do when we say. So if you're finding that the way that you're behaving is not the way you want to behave, there's this mismatch, there's this gap between what's important or what you value and what you're doing. So the best way to deal with that is to go back and re-examine what do I believe is true, what do I believe is important, and if I really think this is important, then I need to match that up. But obviously, if I'm not acting like it's important, then I must not believe that's important. But most time we're so busy, so kudos to you for taking time out of your life to watch a video to think about how do I personally grow, how do I improve in some of these different areas. So we don't take the time to do that. And once again, kind of recap and check in on things is that this is a lesson, but what's most important is what you're feeling, what's kind of resonating with you, what you're kind of getting a ping inside of you about saying, yeah, this one sentence really meant something to me. You want to highlight that, underline that, write it down, however you want to process that, and keep it on. And going back to this lesson, one thing talked about is not everything that comes to mind has to come out. So there's ways to do that, and we'll get that in the lesson. In the last paragraph here. So there's an old proverb that says it's better to say nothing and be thought of as stupid rather than opening your mouth and just removing all doubt. Many times people just say whatever comes to mind and it makes them look pretty foolish. Whereas if you're more reserved, people don't really know. They think there's a lot, there's a lot going on there, and it makes them curious. If you're not the first one to speak up, and everyone else kind of errs, and then you kind of wait to the right moment. I experienced this last night. In a conversation with a group of other adults, we were debating this topic of thing, and everyone had their idea, and I started to vocalize something, but kind of waited because someone else was still talking, and it kind of came back around, and then finally they said, "Hey, you were saying something. What was that?" And then I had the attention of everybody. I wasn't trying to fight for time with everybody. It was undivided attention to kind of share what I thought was an important point of to consider. And it was meaningful, and it meant something to people in the group, right? And it kind of shifted the conversation a little bit. So that's that principle of restraint at work. It works. So there's an old proverb: better to say nothing, be thought of as a fool rather than open mouth. So a very common answer for wise people. You ready? Here's the profound statement you'll hear a wise person say when they're being asked for their opinion on something. I don't know. That may be a good answer, right? Many people are reluctant to admit that they don't know something. They always want to give an answer. They always want to prove that they're the smartest or the wisest. Sometimes there's nothing wrong with saying I don't know. Sometimes the wisest thing you can say is I don't know, but then follow that up with action. In the classroom, I get asked questions I don't know. I'm not going to know everything. These students have amazing knowledge and talent, so I can tap that. I can have them share things that they've learned that I don't know. It makes everyone better in the room. So it's, once again, if you have to try to say something just to try to prove that you know something, that's not wisdom. That's pride. That's just you trying to protect your own ego, and that's not. I don't consider that leadership. I don't consider that someone being healthy and whole. All right, so you've kind of read through this with me, looked at some things. What's standing out to you? Feel free to share that in the comments and everything, and we can decode that and talk about it a little bit more. But that's the thing I want you to take action on. Start to get in the practice and the habit of. This is obviously something that I'm connecting with, that I want to be better at, and then we'll dive into action. So some of the benefits, 3 benefits. When we control the impulsiveness of our words, we eliminate the anguish produced by saying something wrong. You can't take them back. Once they're out there, right? So the best way to minimize and eliminate that feeling, where you take that foot and put it in your mouth, is don't put it there in the first place. 2, restraint helps us grow in our ability to analyze. If you're restraining yourself, you're actually listening, you're learning. The more you listen, the more you learn. That's just the way it goes. So when we learn to hold something inside of our mind, not allow it to spill out of our mouth, it makes us good listeners. We gain insight into people and situations. You just have to study people, learn, watch people. Try to figure out. They just said that. They must have said that because they believe this is important, or they believe this is true, which helps cut through a lot of things. Because many times people will say something and they don't even know why. They don't even know why they feel so strongly about it. But that opens up a chance for you to be able to dialogue with things. As a coach, you want to look for sentiments that have strong emotion, and then try to unpack that with them. It sounds like you really feel pretty strongly about that, or why is that? Anytime you ask someone a question, they have to stop and pause for a while, and they really have to think. Those are great questions. Those are excellent coaching questions. Last one, because we restrain our thoughts, our words, our actions, we're going to be consistent. Many times our integrity is compromised because of the words spoken in haste. So the person who has integrity has unity of thought, word, and action. They recognize their principles and convictions are manifested in what they say and what they do. So there's a lot in that sentence. If you're able to, here's a good analogy, right? So people talk about herding cats or herding animals. There was a Super Bowl, an ad on TV a few years back, trying how hard it is to wrestle these things, and many times, or the a Pixar movie, about feelings and emotions, is that it's really hard to control these things. Emotions are these wild animals that you have to kind of tame, and make sure that they, they're obviously useful and they're valid and they're there for a reason, and they guide you, and different temperaments are prone to different emotions at different times, the way they perceive a situation. So they're good. You can't not have an emotion. You can't control when they're going to emerge. What you can control is your response to them. And if you find yourself feeling out of control, you find yourself that you're kind of the emotions, those wild animals are controlling you rather than controlling them. You need to tame those beasts. That's you. You're in control of that. All right. So how do you put this into practice? I'm going to kind of boil it down to the end here. So there's some 3. This is limitless, and this is the part where I love. This is where creativity starts to show, because what restraints mean to me, what restraint means to you, is going to be different, because we don't live the same life. We don't have the same responsibilities. We're in different stages of life. All those things kind of rolled into one. So your course of action is going to be different than mine, which is really fun. But here's 3 ways to kind of get the gears turning. Practice being kind, even when you don't want to. Or congratulate others, encourage them, recognize the lasting effect of inspiring and stimulating. It's powerful. On many occasions, this can transform lives, circumstances, even changes some course altogether. I've heard many stories of people that were considering suicide. This is an extreme example, but this is a real life story. That I've heard many times where, I didn't think anybody cared. I was going to go home and kill myself. And then, someone held the door open for me. Someone said hi to me. Someone looked me in the eyes, and, commented on clothes or whatever. Sometimes it's the simplest little action that it doesn't cost you hardly anything to do. But you have to get out of your own head, get out of your own mentality, get out of your own space, and find a way to, like, I just want to go do what I want to do, right? That's selfishness at work. So it's an intentional practice of showing kindness. Use your words to build up. When we build up someone, we receive something in return. Like when you build somebody up, like they're stronger and they have more to offer to the world. Like it comes back. There's this universal law called sowing and reaping. Words are seeds. When we sow good seeds, they bring a rich harvest. When we sow bad seeds, they produce problems. That's words, actions, all those things. I talked about that earlier. Those are small investments we're putting out there, and you're gonna get a yield on that. It's either gonna cost you or it's gonna enrich you. Either way, it's undeniable. It's gonna happen. So it's up to you to decide how you want to handle that. When you're in conflict with someone, write the things down we want to say. Then you can have the possibility of correcting, evaluating, polishing those things, smoothing them out. Maybe find a better way to express them when we speak, so that there's many times there's strong emotion. There's a fire attached to words that we want to say in the heat of the moment, particularly when you're seeing something. I know part of my temperament is I'm very much prone to sarcasm. I always have a pretty quick, what I personally think to be quite witty and humorous response. But many times they can be kind of hurtful, the way they come across. That's attached to my temperament as a phlegmatic. So I've had to be careful as I'm scrolling through social media feeds and think, what is going to be the impact of this statement or expression? Is it going to make them better? Am I going to, there's things you can do like what's going to make me feel better in the short term, but after a while it's actually going to make me feel terrible because it shows that I'm a jerk and that I don't really care about other people, which is not what I personally want to be known for. And I think hopefully that's not what you want to be known for too as well. So action time. So start to boil this down and think about how are you going to show restraint in the future. And man, you think I would get better at this, but I don't, so I'm not pre-formulating what my action plans are going to be necessarily. I know this is really hard for some of you. I fully understand during this 30-minute span of time to read through a lesson, process, dig up emotion, analyze yourself, and then come up with a plan of action is very, very difficult. How you're going to put that into practice. But I would challenge you, you need to, at least within this first 24 hours after watching this content, reading through the lesson, for yourself or with others, is to turn this into action, because if you don't, what good was it? Is anything going to change? Are you actually going to be improving or not? No, we probably won't. So, what am I going to do? What do I need to show more restraint in? All right, this one's for my wife. I need to. I have my phone in my hand all the time lately. So I need to show better restraint with that. So I think I need to set the phone down somewhere and then, pick it up as I have time to actually check and work on things. I don't have to have that instant gratification of seeing messages, everything. So that's my personal goal for the next week, and hopefully I need to put that forward in practice moving forward. So Coach K's plan of action is to make sure that I don't have my phone in my hand or my pocket just carrying around with me, particularly around the house. It doesn't make any sense. When we're out, that's something different, but when I'm around the house, it doesn't have to be in my pocket. It can sit somewhere, and that's fine. So that's my goal. You can hold me accountable in week 3's video when we talk about the next lesson, which is, you have to wait to see, right? So thanks again for coming and watching on this Facebook Live video from Coach K and Leadership Coaching. I hope you found some stuff to be useful, and I hope you have a great week. We'll be right back.